you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K, 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 S-I-C-k.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche And after 22 years, Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
We're gonna go
over to Bergeron, down to the circle of Krejci, 53 seconds to go. Bergeron shots, goal! Patrice Bergeron ties it! Hearts of Lions, they come from 3 down in the final 11 minutes to tie Game 7! Dougie Hamilton finds Bergeron over the line. Bergeron going past the goal. Sagan sets up in front. Now Sagan at the post on the cycle. Right off of Reimer. A stick save. Boychuk's drive. Rattles around in front. Marchand to Bergeron. The drive save. Rebound is loose. Sagan kicks it loose. Bergeron scores! Patrice Bergeron with the point of the dagger in their throats. They rip it out of Toronto's hands and kill the beast. The Boston Bruins have won it after being 3 down in the third.
Oh, yeah. What a memory that was. I was there. But the man who made that call is joining us right now on the Sick Podcast. Eye test here, and that is Jack Edwards. Jack, how you doing, my friend?
I still can't believe that comeback. Just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Milan Lucic set the tone on the first shift after they went down by 3 goals. And he just took over the second half of the third period.
Yeah. Do you remember, too, when he looked at the bench and he was sort of encouraging them, let's go, guys. We got this. Come on, let's keep it going. I remember that vividly. And, Jack, the funny thing is, for the beat reporters like me, we got to get down usually early there to get in the locker room. And so I'm just thinking, I got all the time in the world. And I get down there, I'm just kind of settling in. And then all of a sudden the comeback starts. And I'm like, no, wait a minute. Wait. And then boom. I mean, what a comeback, Jack. And I'm sure that has been played so many times since you announced your retirement the other day. And first of all, from Pierre, McGuire, and I, we want to congratulate you on an amazing career. Thanks for the memories.
I'm full of gratitude for a 19-year joyride at the end of a 45-year career. I haven't had to leave my beloved New England through this whole journey, and to have a tiny space in the pantheon of New England sports. It's the stuff of which a 22-year-old out of the University of New Hampshire dreamed. And I leave behind a million smiles and will be gratified by all the people I met along the way and the friends.
Do you have a favorite moment that you called? Do you have a moment that stands out in your mind?
Yeah, no doubt. Nathan Horton's goal in Game 7 of first round of 2011. And that, looking back, Tampa Bay gave the Bruins a hell of a challenge. A beautiful Game 7. It was the best 1-0 game I've ever witnessed in person. But in retrospect, the Canadiens series, the first one, was the biggest step for that team. Because if you remember, they had a miserable run of Game 7s, especially at home, especially against Montreal. And they exercised their ghosts in that game and that moment. If you listen to the call of Horton's goal, there is a pregnant pause between the Bruins and knockout Montreal. And I swear, my periphery was covered with stars, and my blood pressure must have been 300 over 200. And the thought passed through my mind, if I pass out on the booth floor, Rick is going to have to do the post game all by himself.
Unreal. And you remember that series too, Jack. I mean, they go down 0-2. It's looking grim. And, you know, Pierre and I have spoke about this before many times. Credit to Claude Julien for the way he handled those 2 games in Montreal, taking them away to Lake Placid, getting them out of the fishbowl that is Montreal in the playoffs. And I also just remember Mark Recchi, Jack, coming up, and I wasn't allowed to print it, but he's walking out of the locker room. It's kind of cleared out after game 2, and he looks at me and goes, "We're going to tie this series up there." And he did it. And I'm just like, wow. And when they did that.
Doing that, he had experience in 1991. The Pittsburgh Penguins were down 2 games to none to the Boston Bruins.
Yep.
And they came back and won. Mark had a lot of experience when it came to doing things like that, Jimmy.
Yep. Was he part of that rallying cry with Kevin, with Stevens?
He wasn't as much. Kevin and Joey Mullen were really the guys in 91 that stood up and said, "We're letting you guys down. We're Boston guys. We're embarrassed. We're ashamed of how we played. We're going to play better." And sure enough, they won 4 straight.
Yeah. But I mean, that for Jack, for you, I know you grew up a fan, and then to do the play-by-play for the team, I can understand why that's probably the favorite memory. How about when you were on the ice, though, in Vancouver? I saw the special they did on Nesson the other day after you retired, and they said you didn't know if you were going to make it there, eh?
Yeah, and I paid my own way, and the reservations between Boston and Van were so tight. I had to fly from Boston to Dallas to LA to Van, and I saw North America in one day.
I was the same way. I went Boston to Phoenix, and then all the way up to Vancouver, and barely made it by the chin of my skin. I mean, I just remember getting in there game day. I got to the room. I had quick time to shower, and I got down to the rink, and there I am at Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. Thanks, by the way. Same with me, paying my own way with a little help from my good friend Jason Batten. I know he's listening, so thanks, Jay. But Jack, just the whole. I know there's so many memories going through your mind right now, but take us back to when you got the job with the Bruins in Nesson. How did that come about?
I live in Connecticut. I was here for 33 years now, and I badgered the Boston Globe's circulation department to deliver the Globe to my driveway every single day. And they just delivered on Sundays back in the day. And in the summer of 2005, they acquiesced to my demands, and they started delivering 7 days a week. And the day before Sidney Crosby's pro debut, which was to be in a preseason game in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah.
Against the Bruins. I went to the top of the driveway and pulled the plastic bag off the Globe and turned to the important section and flipped through it as I usually do for hockey stories in August. And I saw that Dave Shea was not going to do the away games anymore. Dale Arnold did the homes games back then. And I stopped in my tracks because I was in negotiations for another season for calling NHL on HDNet.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful picture.
Yeah.
12 viewers nationwide in those days. And so I had a reel that was really good. I'd done 62 games for those 12 viewers the season before the lockout. And I immediately made a DVD for Sean McGuire and whoever was the executive producer back then. We've gone through about 5 of them since then. And FedExed it off to Boston. And the next day they called me in for an interview. No, I have it out of order. I drove to Wilkes-Barre and saw Sidney Crosby blow around Hal Gill and go down the slot, only to have the Bruins goalie make a save. And the arena was bonkers. We had never seen that kind of speed and that kind of control, McGillney-like, Bure-like. So Sean Cody, who was working for the Bruins back then, asked me what I was doing in Wilkes-Barre, and I told him I was campaigning for the Bruins job, and he wrapped his arm around my shoulders and took me right to Mike O'Connell and said, "This is the next play-by-play guy for the Boston Bruins." And 24 hours later, I was interviewing for the job, and 24 hours after that, Ray Gilbo, who was just retired as CFO of Nesson, offered me the job. And I might have done the Ray Bork fist pump on the cell phone.
That's great. Good stuff. And here you are later after a great career. Jack, we appreciate everything you did. And as I said to you, and I don't mind telling our listeners what I said to you in the text, I worked for Nesson for a brief time. And one thing I remember is how welcoming you were all the time, the advice you gave me, the talks we had on the road, and I'll treasure that for my life.
I take friendships forward into retirement, and those are the best things I've gotten out of this job. Thanks, Jimmy.
You get out of this.
Thanks, Pierre.
Way to go, Jack. Congratulations, Jack. Fantastic.
Bon voyage, my friend. We'll see you around the rink still.
All right. Say hi to Scotty for me.
Oh, we will. We will. Have a good one, Jack.
See you, Jack.
Jack Edwards joining us here on the eye test, and what a great career he had, Pierre. Just such a passion for the game and the Bruins.
The one thing you knew when you had Jack doing a game, there was always going to be energy.
Yep.
And I think that's a big part of making a call of a game in hockey. I can't speak to the other sports. I've never broadcast them. I did do water polo in the Summer Olympics. It's similar to hockey. But when Jack was doing a game, you always felt there was an energy in the rink, even if it was a bad game. Mm-hmm. He made it an energized fill game. And I think that's a big part of doing his job, and he did it really well.
Yeah, well, one thing, I think there was always a knock on him for being so flamboyant and so pro Bruins, but that's what a team announcer is supposed to be. That's his job. He's not on that. You had to be more objective because you were on NBC and you're broadcasting for both teams and for the league. Yeah. So it's your job to kind of give the perspective of both teams. Whereas Jack's job is just to tell you what it is with the Bruins. And I'll give him credit here. I mean, he was definitely a fan of the Bruins, but at the same time, he didn't hold back. If they deserved to get criticized, he would give it to them.
So you think about the better guys that do it at the regional level, like Dave Randorf in Tampa, Kenny Daniels in Detroit, Jack in Boston. You know, they're Brendan Burke with the Islanders, Sam Rosen with the Rangers. You know, there's one thing, they all have energy for their team. It's not like they're doing it for the other team's listeners. They're doing it for their team.
Right.
And so that's their job.
Yeah.
I had no problem when Jack did that. I kind of enjoyed it, actually. But what I admire, again, and I'll say, he had real passion to be the Bruins announcer. It wasn't a paycheck for him. You know, he loved doing it.
Yeah.
And I respect somebody that does that. I have a lot of admiration for them for doing it.
Yeah. And I mean, it is, we don't know what's going on, but it's just been so hard to see him go through what he's going through. So, you know, I love that he's getting the admiration right now and the gratitude from everyone else. He deserves it. I just hope for him as a human being, Pierre, that they figure it out. You know, that's got to be so horrible to have just your speech go like that and not know what it is.
I agree with you. You know, Jimmy, the other thing I want to say, Boston's a high-end hockey market.
Yep.
It's not a non-traditional hockey market. It's a super high-end hockey market. Yep. Jack was a play-by-play guy there for almost 20 years.
I know.
That's an institution.
Yeah.
And that's something that very few people have the opportunity to do. You know, like I said, Kenny Daniels has been doing it. Sammy Rosen in New York. You know, I think Brendan Burke's on his way. Look how many years Doc Emmerich did the New Jersey Devils after he was fired by the Philadelphia Flyers, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, and so I really respect the guys that do that and do it as long as they did and as well as they did. And, you know, another one is our good friend Chuck Caton.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Chuck was an institution and still revered in the city of Hartford.
Yep.
So, yeah, I got a lot of time for those guys. It's not easy to do it every single day the way they did it with the energy that they did.
You know, and I got to say, for the fans of Boston, Pierre, it's been a rough 5 to 7 years, whatever it has, with announcers, with the turnover of guys that you said were an institution here, whether it was Jerry Remy, Don Ursillo with the Celtics, you know, and then Tommy Heinsohn passed away, and now Jack Edwards leaving the Bruins, or Mike Gorman just retired for the Celtics, you know. So
exactly, yeah.
It's almost like it's a changing of the guard right now in Boston sports broadcasting. And Pierre, you know, I'm sure you can relate to that, being from Montreal. You went through that with the Canadiens guys that you grew up with. It must have been tough when it started to transition into a new generation. Yeah,
you know, when Danny Gallivan, you know, got out of it, when Dick Irvin got out of it, you know, it's interesting. When Dick left the radio side, I came in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll never forget the late Ted Blackman called me up. I was coaching St. Louis's farm team in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And he said, Pierre, why don't you come up and do a fake game for us in the studio? And I said, sure, I'll be up there, you know, pretty soon. He says, no, I'm like right now. The season's over. We need you now. So I went up and did it, and they offered me the job right away. But what I remember the most was calling Dick Irvin up and just getting advice from Dick, you know, how to do it. And I was so fortunate to have somebody like that who was a mentor.
Yeah.
You know, so it was great. It was
it's, you know, one thing I love that I took from that too was the friendships he makes, and, you know, that you take from hockey. And we've said it millions of times, Pierre, that the hockey world is a small world, and it's a community. And that's what I love, is just the people, like you're talking about, the influences certain people had on you. I've got that as well. And we carry that on. And I think that's one of the things I love about this job so much, is even through the advent of social media and technology, it still stays this community. And I love that.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree 100%. I wish there was more mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
I wish young people were more receptive to being mentored. You know, I know Scotty still mentors coaches, tons of coaches. You know, Doc Emmerich still talks to tons of hockey broadcasters or broadcasters from other sports. I think it's just an important thing, being a mentor.
Yeah, and they somebody here in the comment section, Big Bill, was saying, don't forget Dave Van Horn with the Expos.
No, I'll never forget Dave Van Horn. I grew up listening to Dave, you know, obviously doing the Expos. But Teddy Blackman, I don't know if Dave remembers Ted. Teddy Blackman was a big-time broadcaster. He was really good.
For
and
sure.
he had his own style. You know, he definitely had his unique own style. But,
yep,
you know, it's pretty
good
cool.
stuff. Well, listen, we're tracking Scotty down. Scotty Bowman will be joining us here on the eye test. So before we get to Scotty, I want to tell everybody about our new sponsors, and we're glad to have them on board here. Let's start with CBET. The Stanley Cup playoffs are upon us right now. So look, if you want to get your bets in, you want to get the odds on the series, the odds on the games, all the different props you can do, the futures, who's going to win the Conn Smythe. We'll talk a little bit about that later, but all those odds are available right now if you go over to CBET. And, of course, if you do your first bet there, you get $3,000 refunded in Canadian for your first bet there. So what the heck? Go over there, give it a whirl. You can't lose. It's worth the time there. And, of course, TCS. A lot of hockey players coming up in the off season right now will be traded, will sign as free agents. I'm sure some of them are going to be calling TCS Customs and Logistics, because with TCS, you can unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting, TCS is your one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering peace of mind. For a no-obligation customs or freight quote, contact Sick Podcast at shiptcs.com. Again, that's Sick Podcast at shiptcs.com. Welcome aboard to TCS, and I'm sure they're very excited for the playoffs. Pierre, we have the Stanley Cup playoff bracket set, and before we talk about it and start to analyze it, I want to tell our listeners out there, and big thanks to the Sick Media crew for setting this up. You can find it right there, the Sick Podcast NHL playoff bracket. It's a free entry. The prizes will be some great Sick Podcast merchandise, whether it's hats, shirts, what have you. Get on over there right now. I posted the link. The link is posted on the eye test Twitter handle, as well as all the Sick Podcast social media handles. Go over there right now. Click on the link. Sign up. Let us know your picks. We'll navigate through it as the playoffs go on. We'll refer to it, and we'll have some fun with it. So I urge you to get over there right now. I just made my picks over there, and I'm going to get to those at the end of the broadcast today. But Pierre, just your thoughts now that the Stanley Cup playoffs are here. How you feeling?
Oh, I feel great. I'm excited. I can't wait for tomorrow night at 5 p.m. when the New York Islanders play the Carolina Hurricanes, and then at 8 o'clock, an old traditional 8 o'clock start, Toronto versus Boston, the original six getting after one another. And then it's a huge day on Sunday, obviously 4 games on Sunday, starting at 12:30. So that'll be interesting. Jimmy, I would say this. There are clearly some favorites in the first round. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean there can't be upsets. But there are some clear favorites in the first round.
Yeah, there are. But, one thing I love about it, too, and I know people say it's overrated, but there's always that potential, Pierre, for that upset, for that Cinderella team. And we saw it last year with the Florida Panthers. They caught lightning in a bottle, no pun intended, against their rival that they're playing in the first round. And I bet they're hoping to catch lightning in a bottle again. But look, I mean, it can happen. And that's what I love about the playoffs, is that anything can happen. And the games are just so intense. I don't think, Pierre, look, I know the two of us haven't really worked other sports that much. You mentioned water polo. You've done some other things as well. But just from watching, from a viewer's standpoint, and it just from being down there between the benches, I don't think there's more an intense or dramatic or exciting playoff tournament in pro sports. I really don't. And I'm not just saying that because I'm in hockey, because I'm a fan of all sports. I love watching the baseball playoffs. October is one of my favorite times of year because you got hockey coming back, football's going, and the baseball playoffs kick in. But I'm telling you, I don't think there's a better tournament in sports. And I put that above March Madness. I'm sorry.
Why don't you go to a guy that's coached in more games than anybody else when it comes to the playoffs? Just get him on right now. Why don't you
do that? Let's talk about that excitement right now. And that is the legendary and the one and only Scotty Bowman joining us here on the eye test on the Sick Podcast Network.
What do I got to get here in the bottom? Chat?
We got you, buddy. We got you.
Coach, you're on.
I don't know if there's his buddy calling me. I got to switch it. That's Pierre's buddy. George Ellis. We don't want him.
How you doing, Scotty?
Oh, I've been running around.
Yeah. Crazy time of year, huh?
Well, I got to get surgery.
Oh, no.
But this is recorded.
We wish you the best.
Mild.
Okay, good. We're good.
Just
Well, we know whatever it is, your body will take care of it because of how strong you are. Scotty, just saying it's our favorite time of the year. How excited are you for the Stanley Cup playoffs?
Well, the only thing I don't like is there's games piled on top of each other.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to miss some, aren't we?
Yeah, probably.
One game I saw, one of the games is only not even an hour separating. I think it's out west on Sunday or Monday. Or when do they start? Sunday, Monday out west?
They start tomorrow, but yeah, out west they start Sunday.
Yeah.
And you're right. There's 4 games, so they're staggered.
What about Boston now?
Boston, Toronto kicks off tomorrow, but right before that, the first game that kicks off will be the Islanders in Carolina, at 5 o'clock, and then Boston, Toronto, 8 o'clock. So
Boston healthy?
Pretty much enough. Yeah, enough.
Yeah. Well, Toronto's probably happy they're not playing at home the first game. No,
I think it's a great point. So, Pierre, we spoke about that the other day.
But
being on the road is better.
Eventually, they're going to go home and get pressure. But I mean, there's pressure everywhere. Pressure makes diamonds.
Yeah.
Okay, what impressed you the most this season, Scotty, about the National Hockey League?
More than just one thing. I guess the top guys. I mean, you talk about Kucherov and McKinnon, and they miss some guys too, though. That's the problem, because it's points all the time. Panarin was there. Matthews. I mean,
yep.
I mean, you can pick anything you want. Matthews 69 goals. You can pick Kucherov 144 points. I think McKinnon. No, McKinnon. Yeah, McKinnon. What is it? 70 and 40 or something? No, more than that. 90. How many did McKinnon end up with?
I'll pull up the total right now.
Come on, it should be on your head.
I'm losing track of all these guys having all these stats.
McDavid 100 assists, and Kucherov.
Yeah.
I think I saw the other day there was 23 players that have 100 assists, but Gretzky and Lemieux took care of about maybe 80% of them.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of players. I mean, maybe 6-7 guys in the history of the game.
Yeah.
But
Bobby Orr, Gretzky, and Lemieux, and then you had obviously McDavid, and then you had Kucherov.
Yeah, but how many times were Gretzky and Lemieux?
Oh, numerous.
Yeah. By the way, McKinnon had 140 points, Scotty. McDavid was at 132. You were right about Kucherov, 144. McDavid, 132. Panarin, 120. Pasternak, 110. Matthews, 107. Draisaitl, 106. Rantanen, 104. And JT Miller, 103. Those were the 100-point scorers this year, Scotty.
And like when we had I didn't follow it as much because I was in the 80s. When was the 80s? Well, Jimmy Benn won scoring with 89, but I don't know if that's going to be in the 90s or no.
2000s,
yeah.
But what about when was the big offense? 80s?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
For sure. Well, you were coaching.
No,
but I was in Buffalo, though.
Well, look at Edmonton. The New York Islanders, Mike Bossy. Look at Edmonton with Yari Curry, Messi, Gretzky.
Yeah, but wait a minute now. No. Bossy, Pierre, you're dating yourself. Bossy didn't start till around 76.
Yeah, but we're saying the
80s, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and Lafleur. That's a good point because Lafleur didn't play in the 80s much. Yeah. He was the 70s. What were the 70s like? Tighter? Or?
Well, I don't know. They had a coach in Montreal that was cracking whip on everybody.
No. I mean the league, though, Pierre. Talking about the league,
I think it was pretty open. Right?
What about Phil Esposito? Phil Esposito had 70-something goals one year in the 70s. Boston.
He did.
Yeah, Bobby. Johnny Busick cracked it up there a few times. I mean, I want to ask you
How about this?
Yeah.
The most unusual game I ever coached. That's a good one for you.
All right. What was it?
Well, I'm asking you.
Okay. Pierre would know better than me.
Pierre won't get it. He wasn't even. I think no.
Where you must have been in St. Louis.
No. Pierre, wait a minute now. It was in No, now he'll be around. Okay. I'll give you it quickly because we haven't got too much time. 1973, sixth game of the Stanley Cup Finals.
Philadelphia, Montreal, Chicago.
Montreal Forum, Dan Kelly and Lou Nanne, Ken Dryden and Phyllis and Tony Esposito, two of the great goalies of the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
They are probably the two best.
Yep.
Final score. We're coming home to win the cup in Montreal. We won the first two, split in Chicago. Chicago upsets us 8-7. 8-7. Pierre, do you remember that or not?
I don't remember the 8-7. I don't. Honestly, I don't.
Can you believe the two goalie 8-7? So
yeah.
Quick story. 8-7 and no cup. Now we're going to go to Chicago, right? So we always went to the mountains in Montreal. Pierre.
The Sapinière.
That's where we were.
Yeah.
Maybe, the first time we went to the Chateau, or where that
in Estoril. Did you go in St. Margaret in Estoril?
Yeah, the first small name. It starts with a C.
Chanticleer.
Okay, good. He's still doing his homework. So anyways, Jimmy, we go up there, and I got a call, and very rarely, maybe one of the few calls of my whole life, Toe Blake called me from Montreal because he was retired, but he was very active coming in the room. He was a wonderful man. Like the thing he did the most when I was a coach, we'd come in a room, like say it was a player not playing a lot, a young player especially, he would go to them and cheer them up. Like I remember he'd go to Steve Shutt, because we had a lot of good players, and he didn't play a lot the first year. He got 15 goals, and Toe would go to, and he was a high-powered junior, and Eagleson was his agent, and a lot of pressure in Montreal. So he'd go to him and say, Steve, he'd tell him a story like that. Evac Cornway didn't play much the first year because he just played on a power play. He kept and he would he'd only go to players that he thought could have a cheer up. So he went to talk to Kenny Dryden that game. And Kenny was very articulate, and the media stood around him for 20 minutes, more than 20. And Toe didn't like what the interview was like. They were pressing him. What's wrong? Yeah. Well, he said, how can you win games with 2-on-1s and 3-on-2s? And he didn't mean what he said,
right?
Because he was saying, and he wasn't. Kenny always needed a lot of time to explain things, but they were on to the next question. So he said to me, Scotty, if what I heard, he said, I got tired of listening. He took off, and he said, if it's true, or no, if the papers read it the way I think they will in Montreal, they're going to expand the interview. He said, you better talk to the goalie about he put the defenseman under the bus, the big three plus others.
Oh, boy.
So, and we didn't have a goalie coach. And you don't touch goalies in those days, You just make sure they got cold beer if they want it. And, and the rest is history. Gump Worsley. But anyway, so, wonderful goalie, yes. Four cups, too. That's another story. Well, I said cold beer because that's what Phil Watson accused him of. And he said, I don't drink beer, I drink scotch. But anyways, I didn't know what to do. So if you ever get our book or you see it, the picture on the back of the book is me talking to Kenny on the ice in Chicago before, maybe before the practice, or maybe it's in Montreal practicing before we went. We might have had an extra day. And so I got the courage up to say to him, because he's a foot taller than me at that picture. And I said, Kenny, I got to talk to you about the last, the paper. And I qualified. I said, I can't say that what the paper wrote was factual because, it was stretched. But, these are a lot of Hall of Fame players too. And I said, you're going to have to go and explain to them that you talked, because in English, I would say you threw them under the bus, but I know you didn't. But you didn't mean to. No, he said, he was listening, and he said, you listened about the game, and because he was a good winner, And I said, that's only a suggestion. We went to Chicago. He did take them out for dinner. He took them out for dinner in Chicago. I don't even know how many he took out. He did it on his own. And we came into the game and we won. They won that game 6-4 to win the cup. But that was a true story. 8-7.
Jimmy, you know what's interesting about Scotty telling you that? He told me that story when we were up 2 games to none against Chicago at the Drake Hotel.
Oh, yeah. We won the fourth game.
We won game 3, 1-0. But Scotty told me that story the night before we played game 3 at the Drake.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love it.
And who was the star of game 3?
I would say Tommy Barrasso.
1-0.
Tommy Barrasso was pretty good. That's a guy you drafted out of Acton, Boston. Bucky Kane. You and Bucky Kane drafted.
He won the game. He won the game for us.
Yep.
Really, he did.
He did. Yeah. Tommy was really good. And then he had a Bentley. Then he had a Bentley out front before game 4 at the Drake. Yeah. He did. He blamed me. And what are you doing? I said nothing to do with this guy.
And Jerry, the next game is for game 4 at home in Chicago, and the game gets out of hand. It's opposite, and we jumped to a good. I'm pretty sure we were ahead all the game, and very unusual. In the second period, Mike Keenan, who did it earlier than that, and he was a great goalie, honestly, Eddie Belfour. And he was a temperamental goalie. The sub goalie never got an inch with him. I mean, I'm playing every game, every minute. Yeah. He very seldom took out Ed Belfour. You can look at all the other goalies took out. Yeah. So they were down. I think they were down 4-2 or 3.
It was 4-3 because Dirk Graham got a natural hat trick in the first.
Okay, so who was their backup then? Was it Kluche?
No, let's just. You're telling the end. Read a book. You can't jump. I didn't know you, but okay, here's what happened. 4-3, in comes Dominic Hasek.
Wow.
Played most of the year in Indianapolis, an unknown figure. Nobody knows him. And that's what I mentioned to Jaromir Jagr about a month ago when he had his retirement. I said, Jaromir, a lot of people said you were a young player. He stood up in the room at the end of the second period and yelled at the guy. Not yelled, he said, don't fool around in the third period. You don't want to play anymore. We didn't know who this guy was. Our players wouldn't know him for a load of wood.
Right.
And he said, don't fool around. He's a world-class goalie. And if he could ever sneak by this game, we're going to have our hands full. People are there, well, what's he smoking, And anyways, we go out in the third period. And honestly, I think Mario Stevens and Jagr, or maybe not Jagr, somebody else. Mario might have had 2 breakaways. Mm-hmm. Honestly, and we never gave up the lead, but it was really close. And we tied the game. We didn't tie it. Ronnie Francis made it 6-4.
Ronnie scored the 6th goal,
and then they made it 6-5.
Yep.
But Hasek stood on his. He had 20 shots. You check it.
Yeah, no, he's spot on, Jimmy. It's amazing.
That's why the goalies. That's why I'm going to talk about the playoffs, and you have to talk about playoffs, goalies.
Yep.
And that's the one thing I've seen it happen before, but Boston has. They had the issue last year, but they're still 2 good goalies.
Yeah,
they're both good goalies, and I don't know. It's not an easy how to handle it, but. Who knows what will happen? You can't predict the future. But I think that their goalies I'm not putting the guy under the bus, Georgiev, because when you get the kiss of death, sort of, you could say he's going to play good. But they should. That's probably one of the series, along with maybe I'm thinking of the Rangers series, Washington with the goalies, and then you got Islanders and Carolina's a pretty interesting one because you got the 2 goalies, but now we switched to Varlamov.
Yep.
Quinn, and Terry knows this story. I think I told him. Igor Larionov told me when Shesterkin and Varlamov were playing in St. Petersburg. Shesterkin was a little bit older, I think, or no, younger.
Younger.
And he was a better goalie
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm getting it wrong. Not Varlamov, the guy that's his backup. Is it
Sorokin.
Sorokin. Okay, I'm in the wrong team. Sorokin and Varlamov. Sorokin was a better goalie and he took over. Now he's back in number 2, I think.
Yeah.
You're right on, Scotty. You're right on. You're got it.
So I mean, the goaltending, and I don't know anything about the Carolina. I mean, I know that Carolina and Islanders play solid defensive hockey. And so does Rangers. I mean, Laviolette plays that. You know, they don't give up. They don't need to score 6 goals. So the question in that game, jumping around the Islanders series, how would you look at what's this guy? How do you spell his name? The goalie.
Kachekov.
Is he going to be the starter or Anderson?
It's going to be Kachekov from what I was told. So,
what do you guys know? See him play?
I mean,
underrated though.
He's shown some flashes of brilliance, but he hasn't put it together consistently enough for me. Mm-hmm. I mean, I give the Islanders a goaltending edge for sure in that series. Yeah, that's the only chance they have.
But the other team has both teams have good defense.
Yeah,
they're both pretty good. I don't know if Islanders. I wonder if they have enough. Like after you get past Barzal and Horvath and Nelson, like when you get the secondary and third scoring, that's what you got to worry about with that other team. They got a lot of.
They got firepower.
Boston has guys, surprisingly enough.
Yeah.
You know, look at Heinen this year. You know, they got guys
Jimmy Montgomery.
Zaka. See, people don't know those players.
Yeah.
You know, and if you look at their records this year, they were pretty. I think Toronto tried to beef up a little bit with the guy from Bertuzzi. Yep. And I mean, with better players, you know, who they pick up this with? Domi, Bertuzzi.
Then they got the kid. He was a signed
Matthew Nyes, and then Bobby McMahon from Colgate.
He's hurt.
Are they in the class of the Boston extras? Or
I don't know. I mean, I look at that kid. They are a little tougher on D because they get Edmonton and they got Benoit.
Boston's defense with the 3. I mean, they got the McAvoy, Carlo and McAvoy and
Carl,
and the Carl and
Carlo Lindholm.
Yeah.
Who?
Carlo, Brandon Carlo, and Hampus Lindholm.
Oh yeah. But I mean, you're right about Toronto. Do you like their defense though, Toronto? I mean,
no. I'll tell you what, Scotty. I just wonder too, and I don't know. This could be just the romantic in me. Being a Red Sox fan, the Red Sox fan that saw they couldn't beat the Yankees forever. It's the same thing with Toronto not being able to beat the Bruins. They're due. That's the only thing I wonder.
I'm like you.
Sooner or later it happens.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, in a 1-game stand, this is the old story. Even the 1 game, the Miracle of Ice on 1980. Yeah. I mean, it can happen. 1 game, you know.
Can Tampa beat the Florida Panthers, Scotty?
Well, that series is, for me, what I would say, Pierre, the most important thing for talking about the Panthers first. Mm-hmm. You can't put this team on the power play. I'll give you a hope for 2 if I'm coaching Florida, but not more than 3. Their power play. I mean, Tampa's power play. It's not even what they do in the other end, Pierre. They got 3 or 4 ways to bring it out. They don't unless they lose the face-off and they're coming down, the puck's going in with them in possession.
I agree.
They don't fire it in. They got 3 or 4. They don't just drop it back, the usual drop back and pass across. Kucherov's flying around. Stamkos is flying around. Sometimes Hedman will. So I think that's Boston has got to be very Boston. Florida's got to be careful on the scrums and that stuff.
Yeah, Sam Bennett and Kachuk, Scotty, they got to be careful. Those two.
Well, Pierre knows this. No, but Pierre knows this too, and we did it a lot. And I had to coach a long time in the league. I really like the only time the coach in my day could speak to the league was the very opening before the series started, usually in the morning, but sometimes even they call you and they ask you what time can you have a meeting. Guys like Dave Newell, guys like John McCauley. These are excellent referees, that were supervisors, Paul Dvorsky. So they call you in, they go to your room with the manager. You go to the manager's office, and they talk about, you can lay out your cards. And I'm coaching Tampa. I'm saying, what is the rules going to be, or the interpretation of scrums? Tell me how we're going to handle the scrums before we start, so that it's going to be equal for both, and you can tell the other team too. But you lay the groundwork, because when you look at the Florida Panthers, the aggressive players, one on the back end, Eklund, he plays the man. I don't know how injured he is, but he's pretty aggressive. Forsling's a hang of a defenseman, but he's not physical. Montour tries to play a little physical, but up front, I mean, everybody saw how tough they are. Well, Tkachuk he's like Marchand was 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. You remember Marchand 5 years ago? How he was, he didn't get as many penalties. But Tkachuk doesn't get as many penalties as people think that he maybe even. So you got Bennett. Bennett will come in right away. Cousins is a bit like, he's like behind you.
Used to be. He's a little bit like Keith Acton.
Yeah, like Ken Linsman type.
Yeah, that kind of guy. Yeah,
they can cause you trouble. Yep. So I mean, but Reinhardt, Verhaeghe, Barkov, they're hockey players. They're really good ones. They're good ones. So I mean, I would say it's a series where they got to be careful that they don't put this team on the power play.
Yep.
And that's the one part of the Boston series that worries me a little bit, is Toronto's power play sometimes gets hot, and Boston's, I don't know how, what are the records of the teams? You would know that, Jimmy.
Yeah. So, I mean,
you can look it up. I'll let you.
The power play for Toronto's way better. I'll just say that it's their, I think they're hitting it like a 23% clip. So
what's Boston?
All I know is this season, Boston never lost a game to Toronto.
Well, we're playing in the playoffs now.
That's true. No, you're right.
But that's Jimmy's his philosophy, law of averages.
Scotty, there's one question I want to get to you about Marchand. I'm glad you brought him up. So he becomes captain. Brad Marchand. Okay, so they put the C on him this year. You were just referencing, how much of an agitator he is, and that's in his MO and what he can do, and that's how he's been successful.
Yeah.
But he and Don Sweeney said it's been kind of a struggle for him to kind of walk the line of being a captain and being in that role, but also still trying to maintain that agitator status. What would you say to a player like that just, became a captain, but has really thrived on being the agitator?
Well, yeah, but I think at this stage in his career, the most important thing that he can do is play at the level he can, but also he's the captain now, and he's a leader. He's got to be the leader. And so I think every one of his antics or plays or good things and bad things are always going to be transported into the rest of the team, sort of, his players are players. So I that's the way I feel about it, is that I think he's one of the most underrated. He still is. Oh, yeah. I just admire. Plus, I'm amazed at the energy he has.
Yeah,
plays good minutes against good players, and then even when they played 4 games in 6 nights or something, he's still got, people say, well, he's not a great skater. I said, well, he doesn't slow down.
No,
he must be in great condition.
He works so hard.
Yeah,
that's the thing. I remember him coming in as a 4th liner. Nobody gave him.
Well, he played in the minors.
Yeah.
How many years did they play in Providence?
He's only down there for a year. They called him up and he got his chance, and he stuck. He played.
You see what he has that a lot of the younger players got to try to get. He has no entitlement in his game. He's never had entitlement. He doesn't feel he's entitled. He's not entitled to anything. I mean, I could tell you, I speak to some coaches in the NHL, and the one thing that they always ask me about, which I really can't help them with because I didn't have that era, is how do I work with entitled players? How do I mean, like now you can't, like they can turn you off. And say,
Yeah.
I'm not going to play. Hang with you. I'm going to get in. But I mean, they're entitled since the time they put skates on. Really,
Yeah.
8 years old. They're 8 years old. They're 9 years old. Nobody has the puck except them, right?
Yeah.
And then they get point. Then they lead their leagues in scoring. I don't care what league it is, and how many of them have to change over and start playing without. They never had to go and get the puck.
Yeah.
When you think about it,
Yeah.
they had it a lot of the time.
Marchand always did, though.
But these young players now that come up, they never had to give it. They never had to go and get it.
Yeah.
Because they always had it. But the ones that can adapt, and that's what I'll give. There was, I'm saying, when you get a young player that can do it, though they all can't do it. Is like when Joel Quenneville was in Chicago. Like he had a good nucleus coming out of the minors. I mean, that's one good thing. He had guys that I didn't even know, Bickle and Boland and all these guys that were ready to come in. But Taves came in. He had the good sized body, and he put him in the penalty kill right away.
Mm-hmm.
And you get adapted to the NHL. Of killing that. I mean, but you can't do it all the time if you have a good team.
Right.
Trying to win. But if you have a weak team and you want to train a guy, well, Toronto did it. Actually, I'll give one bit of credit with Marner. Marner's the one young forward that came in and said, I don't know, maybe they were short at that time. I think it was Babcock that did it. Everybody criticizes him all the time, but there's good and bad points of all of us. But I just think that it's not easy to coach these young players today. When you get the real top draft picks, it's a big job. Yeah.
Scotty, we've got right here, we're going to close it off. We want to give one of our listeners a chance to ask you a question. So we're going to post a question up right now for you.
Where's he from? Boston?
We'll find out. They tell us.
Oh, Montreal.
Montreal. Do you still watch Montreal? And if so, what are your thoughts on the rebuild and the future of Montreal?
I do watch them, not as much as I watch Tampa more because I live here. My thoughts are they're on the track. It's a slow track, the same as Detroit. There's different ways to do it. Like Chicago, they have a ton of minus players right now, and they have one great superstar. But I would say they're trending in the right direction. I'm not sure of the goaltending. Pierre knows the one goalie, though. What's his name?
Fowler. Jacob Fowler.
Yeah,
but he's not ready yet, though.
No. Another year, Scotty. One more year.
So we start with the goaltending. You got Primo. You got Montembeault left. I don't know who they have in Laval. Their defense core, I do think that they're developing a pretty solid defense core of different varieties.
Mm-hmm.
And they up front, I don't know all the forwards they got. They have to get a little bit bigger. They have to get a little. I mean, you can't go and get big players that can't play.
They're going to get Kirby Doc next year, though. Kirby Doc will help.
He'll help.
Oh no, he's going to be a good two-way player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's going to. Oh no, that was a big loss, and I don't know what they have in their farm system. I mean, they have fix this year. They have they're a lot. They're not as good as Arizona or Chicago in those teams on number, but they got pretty good numbers, don't they?
Yep.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah.
And the big thing to me they don't, which is going to help them, is the people have enjoyed how they played this year, like especially in Montreal.
Competitive.
But they've been competitive, so that there's not a lot of doomsday.
Yeah.
The people are more positive than negative. So I mean, naturally you got to, and I mean, I'm like everybody else. You're always surprised when a fella goes in like Marty St. Louis, but I think he's really. The way he played, I know his history, it's amazing. Couldn't even get a contract. Had to go to the American League. Mm-hmm. So he's. I mean, I'm sure he's kept up with the league. He's a gamer. So, and I'm sure he's ready. He's got his own family, but I think he can adapt to these younger players. He doesn't throw them under the bus, but yet again, I would think he's done a good job. I don't know the other people as much like are important. Guys like Trevor Letowski and Burrows has been in the league. So
Roby Duck, Roby Duck,
the defense coach, eh?
yeah, Roby
So,
Duck.
I mean, I would say it's a league that's got a lot of teams the same. New Jersey, Ottawa, Detroit, Buffalo. You go west, Arizona, Anaheim. These teams. There's about 3 or 4 teams ready to make a move.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's not easy. Everything has to fall into place.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would say that they couldn't have done much differently. I don't know what else they could have done. You have the cap system. They had some contracts. I don't think they're in jail. They're not in jail.
They're fine. They're fine. They're fine with the cap.
And you know, the big thing too, like they got 2 people I really respect because the one that came from the Rangers,
Jeff
Gordon,
Yep.
and Kent Hughes. You got 2 different varieties. Kent Hughes was a terrific agent. He knows that side of the game.
Yep.
The other guy found a lot of players.
Yes.
And he was with Boston.
Yep.
He told me once, I was talking to him, and you did too. He hung around with Harry Sinden. He was a brilliant hockey
mentor.
Harry Sinden was a brilliant hockey man. He didn't coach a long time. I knew him when he was a player before he even coached, and he was a very smart manager, and he had good people with him. But you know, he was one of them. So I think they got the right. You know, they're not worried about the language now. They're not worried about English, French. That's out of the picture.
Worried about the hockey.
They're worried about the hockey, and Kent Hughes is bilingual, which makes it even better.
Yep.
So I give them. I'm going to give them a B+.
All right, I like it.
It's good.
Here was good.
I'm so impressed by.
I'm getting a C. I'll be ready next time, Scotty.
No, I want you. No. I got you pegged. I got you pegged as a hockey man, Jimmy.
I appreciate that.
Okay, I guess my comparison.
Wow.
You would have a future in the game, analytics, because you get all that information.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. See, it's all analytics now. Now you got a good partner. He has more eye test.
Yes.
He's not big.
Eye test.
He's not big on writing letters and you know.
I'm a wordsmith, not a mathematician. Though,
he hasn't even read all my books, so you can. Jimmy, analytics. I would say that you would be your. I mean, it's good. It's good because that's the future.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't think it's the end all, but I mean, don't you think a guy? I mean, analytics plus eye test.
I like the eye test better, though. I'll tell you that. But no, that's your mentor right here helping me.
Here's the problem with the eye test. Eventually, you come to a tie.
Yep.
That's when you got to look the other way.
Okay.
But I don't want to twist it up and say this is 80% analytics. Okay, give me 20%. That's what you're saying.
All right. Beautiful.
You're the best.
Buddy. You're the best. We appreciate you coming on. We appreciate it.
I'm gonna have one more question.
I don't know. Pierre's tight on time, Pierre. It's up to you, my friend.
Pellegrini, what's his future?
He's going to be Jonathan Toews with more offense.
There you go.
Crosby?
No, I don't think like that. I think he'd be like JT. He'll be more like Jonathan Toews with more offense.
Oh.
Yep. We like him.
Is he going to stay in BU?
I don't think so. I'd be surprised.
Boston get too many players, the colleges.
I know,
What's the attraction in Boston besides, I don't know, where my daughter lives in Swampscott.
Oh, okay.
And she goes to that restaurant. I think it's closing, though.
Yeah, that's a beautiful place. That's a beautiful place.
Remember Anthony's Pier 4?
Oh, yes. We used to have team dinners there. Scotty used to take us there for team dinners at Anthony's.
We used to have Irish wakes.
One more question. She plays golf in Nahant.
Yep, I know Nahant.
Right. Why are they famous?
For the fish, right? For the seafood.
No. First year player with the Boston Bruins, a pretty good one, Bobby Orr.
Oh yeah.
Lived there with Eddie Johnson's family.
Oh wow.
No way, wow.
I'll leave that with you.
Wow,
thanks, Scotty.
Thanks, Scotty.
Anytime.
We appreciate it. Enjoy the playoffs, my friend.
I will. We'll. I got some favorites, but I can't say them on the air.
All right. We'll talk soon. Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
All right. Scotty Bowman, join us here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. Pierre, he's the best.
Can you imagine? We were roommates.
We could. I know. And the greatest thing is he wanted to keep going, Pierre. He wanted to keep going all night.
I'm telling you, we used to, all day long, 24/7. It was just hockey. It was hockey all the time.
That's amazing.
And when we were going into series, I don't think people really understood just how intense our prep was.
Oh, yeah.
And we would just sit there across the desk from one another and eyeball and come up with different ideologies. Jimmy, I got to go. I got to do this.
You got to do it. You do it. Listen, we'll talk soon. We'll quick. Who do you like for the cup? Can you give us one? All right, I'm gonna do it. I'm picking. You ready, Pierre? The Dallas Stars, the Stanley Cup. That's my pick. You can check out the rest of my picks over at the Eye Test Sick Podcast bracket we've got going on. Guys, pull it up one more time there so the readers can see it. There we go. Go over there. It's on all the social media handles right now. Make your picks. We're gonna have some great prizes from the Sick Podcast Network. And I'm going to tell you right now, guys, I'll give you my picks before we go. And sorry, Pierre had to go. He was tight. He's got 2 radio interviews coming up. We would have kept Scotty on if we could, but it's just the way it goes when you're Pierre McGuire. He's a popular man. So here's my picks, everyone. You ready? I'm gonna roll through them, and then I'll let you guys digest them, and we'll talk again on Monday. So here we go. I got Leafs in 6, Panthers in 7, Rangers in 5, Canes in 6, Canucks in 5, Oilers sweep, Jets in 6, and Stars in 7. Those are my first round picks, and I think the Stars eventually win the Stanley Cup. So we will talk to you on Monday. This has been another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. Enjoy the playoffs. Talk to you Monday.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind.